shall we start with the chairman of the Royal Distance Project, who is now in Laos? Laos?
Leslie, hear me?
Yes, we can. Hello, how are you?
Surprise! Guess where I am? I'm in Laos now.
I see that.
We are in morning and you are in night. So we connect 3 countries today. Laos and in Bangkok. Since the voice is clear, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our ambassador of Thailand to the Lao PDR, Mr. Ratchakit Manatat. So I'll let you say hello. Okay, Leslie?
Okay. And this is our guest speaker, Ms. Georgianne Cooper, with me here today, too. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear us? Excellent.
Yes.
Allow me to introduce on my Mr. Sompian Sayadet, President of Education Promotion of Laos, PDR, Mr. Sompian Sayadet.
Hello, good morning. I am Sompian Sayadet, President the Foundation for Promoting Education. And who sit near me, Mr. Ejo Adphasuk, Director of Secondary School of Vientiane. Thank you.
ได้แล้วใช่ไหมก็อยากจะให้ท่านสุชาดานะครับเล่าให้ท่านผู้ที่เฝ้าชมการคอนเฟอเรนซ์ครั้งนี้นะครับได้ทราบซะก่อนว่าทางท่านพรทิพาเนี่ยท่านได้ขอให้โรงเรียนทั่วทั้งประเทศเลยนะครับรับชมการแล้วก็ในเรื่องการเรียนการสอนภาษาอังกฤษจากมหาวิทยาลัยโอเรกอนตามที่แฝกไปให้อาจารย์ช่วยอธิบายหน่อยภาษาอังกฤษนะคะ
Okay. We have several good news. Two of the good news is that in Thailand, as in many countries in Southeast Asia, English has been national agenda. English has been one of the priorities that the government will put the budget, the effort, and the plan into it. And the session as of today will be viewed by all schools with English teachers, with facilities throughout the Kingdom of Thailand. So it's very, very good news that the effort between University of Oregon, U.S. government, RELO, and the government of Thailand is having wider impact through more than schools that we had earlier planned.
Okay, so I think what we'll do is a slightly revised program perhaps, and we'll go through the comments that we have prepared in a PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll leave it to Kun Richard and the leaders at the site to conduct the activities. How does that sound?
Fine.
Fine, yes.
Okay. All right, are we ready to begin then?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you very much for standing by with our technical difficulties tonight. My name is Leslie Ott Beckman. I'm at the University of Oregon, where I'm the technology coordinator and an instructor in the linguistics department and at the American English Institute. And this is part 2 in a 10-part video conferencing lecture series that's been sponsored by the U.S. Embassy, by the Royal Thai Distance Learning Foundation, with lots of assistance from Chula Longhorn University and Thai TESOL and many other colleagues. So a big thank you once again to everyone for making this possible. We have with us here tonight our second guest speaker. This is Ms. Georgianne Cooper. She's the director of the University of Oregon's Teaching Effectiveness Program. So what Georgianne does here at the university is she works with faculty like me and faculty in many other departments on campus in helping them improve their teaching practices. So she's an expert in working with large classes and especially with groups. So we've asked her here tonight to give us some tips about working with large classrooms. Okay. So we've prepared a PowerPoint presentation tonight. We'll switch to that and see if you can see it. How does it look on your screen?
The split screen, it's a little dark. If we went full screen, I think we'd be okay.
All right. You want to try that and then tell us how it looks? How is that?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine from Hua Hin as well.
Okay.
Okay. Are we ready to go then?
Yes.
Okay, so these are the things that Georgianne is going to talk with us tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about definitions just to tie it in with some of the work that we did last week. Then she's going to talk to us a little bit about pros and cons of group work, a little bit about timelines, working with mixed ability classes and groups. All of us have students with different kinds of abilities in our classes. Tips for assigning students to groups, student accountability in groups, and giving every student an opportunity to participate, and assessing group work activities. All of this in half an hour. Do you think we can do it?
Yes.
Sure.
Sure.
Sure, why not? All right. So some definitions. First of all, when we're talking about a large language classroom, we're indirectly comparing that to what our idea of what an ideal classroom might be. Now, I see you looking through your papers. These PowerPoint slides are not on your papers, okay? We gave you supporting handouts, and we gave you the general idea of what we're talking about tonight, but you don't have an exact copy of this. I can put it on the web afterwards.
Would be a good idea.
You can take notes as you watch along. Okay? All right. All right, so when we're talking about a large language classroom, an ideal language classroom might be one that had something like what? 15, 20 students in it? However, many of us work with classrooms where we have 30 or 40 or maybe even 50 or more students. When we get up in that kind of numbers of students, we have to make some choices about how we teach, and we might do things differently than we would if we had a smaller number. In that case, we hear people talk about classroom management. How do I manage a classroom that size? When you're talking about managing a classroom, there are different kinds of management. You might talk about managing student behavior. A lot of times teachers ask me, the students are acting poorly, their behavior is poor, what can I do? That's one kind of classroom management. Another kind of classroom management is managing class activities, what we do, what we expect our students to learn in the classroom. At another level, you might talk about managing your own workload as a teacher or as an administrator. So the topic is very broad, and it's too broad, it's too big for us to talk about in every detail here tonight. So what Georgianne and I are going to talk about a little bit is the middle one, managing class activities, managing learning. Now last week, or last month, with Dr. Sarah Klinghammer, we talked about some principles of language teaching. Traditional teaching versus some of the new cooperative kinds of learning. So the topic tonight, managing your classroom, using group work to manage your classroom, fits very well with those principles that we discussed last month. And last but not least, if we have a little bit of time, we'll touch on the topic of assessing this, assessing your management, assessing the learning, assessing these group work techniques. Okay. Having covered the definitions then, I'll turn it over to Georgianne, and she's going to talk to you in more detail about some pros and cons and some of the other topics tonight.
Good morning. It's good evening here, but good morning there. Let me ask first, before we even start, how many of you have tried to do some work with your students using groups? Can you just raise your hand and let me see?
Yes, please.
No hands?
Show.
Maybe a little bit? Okay. So I would like to start and talk about groups in terms of what are the good things that working in groups can do with learning, and maybe some places where working in groups can cause some trouble. And I think with any teaching technique, you need to make decisions about whether to use it or not based on what is most important for you to accomplish in your classroom. Does that mean anything?
No, it's okay. Just keep going.
So, in terms of advantages of using groups in a classroom, you can design techniques, and we'll talk a little bit about that and even let you try when you try the activities. You can assign a group activity that takes just a few minutes, or you could spend an entire class period with a much more complex group activity. And you choose which kind of group activity to design depending on what you want students to learn, depending on what else you need to do for that class period, and sometimes depending on how experienced your students are in doing group work. If they have not done much work at all, it may be a little strange to them. It may take them several different group activities before they can be as productive in learning as they would be learning a different way. The one thing that group work does, and this is where many teachers here at the university begin to be willing to try group work, is with groups you can have everyone in the room actively engaged in the learning. In our classrooms, when a teacher asks a question, they often ask their question to the entire room. So if you have 30 students or 60 students and the teacher asks a question, maybe only 5 or 6 students will be brave enough to answer the teacher because they're very worried about saying something that will sound stupid in front of all their classmates. But if the teacher asks the same question and tells the students to work as partners, so Leslie and I would be working together on the question, then all throughout the room you have students working 2 by 2, and they're all trying to answer the question. So another part of group work is that you can put your students together in groups according to their abilities. So if you have a lot of mixed abilities in the class, which most classrooms, all students are not able to understand and do things at the same level. So you can group them together in groups of similar knowledge and skills, or you can mix them up so that some of your students who are much more capable can begin to teach students who are struggling to learn. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, because sometimes you have to help students understand what it is to teach other students and not just take over and do all the work by themselves. And especially here in the United States, group work is being used because there is a direct transfer to the workplace. When students are finished with school and they're looking for jobs, the skills of being able to work with others, the skill of being able to teach others, and the skill of having good leadership skills is quite valued in the American workplace. I don't know if that's the same in Thailand, but here those group skills will be very valuable for students after they finish their schooling. And I think another very important point is that when students work together, they can build very valuable relationships. And these relationships can help them be successful in the class, because often when students work as a group in class, they will also work outside of class as a group. And they will form study groups to help them understand material, to help them prepare for tests, and to do better in the class. But let's also look at some of the problems that can be created with group work. And just as I said, they can build these relationships that are very strong and very positive. Sometimes when you're working with a group of people, there are individuals you just don't like, and you don't get along well with them. Or there's somebody who talks too much, or there's somebody who never adds anything. And then you can have problems with the group. I don't think this happens often, but when it does, it presents a problem that needs to be solved. Some group activities take a lot of time and a lot of patience, because people are now working together, and so they have to cooperate with each other. And sometimes the kind of material that you need to cover in class does not allow a lot of time for students to get into groups and work together. And in many cases, it's hard to determine who's really working in that group. If you have these large classes with as many as 50 or 60 students, and you are just one teacher, you can't be everywhere in the room to see that everyone is paying attention to the task and focused on the learning and accomplishing what you ask them to do. So there can be groups at the back of the room that aren't talking about their schoolwork at all. Maybe they're planning a party. Maybe they're talking about a football game. So you don't always know who's getting the work done. And sometimes designing a good group activity can also be difficult, because you need to design something that doesn't feel like a waste of time. If a student thinks, oh, I could finish this task in 2 minutes, and now she's forcing me to sit with this group for 10 minutes, and it feels like a waste of time. So the activity you design really needs to be something that works best when you have many different voices and perspectives and ideas coming together.
Okay. Shall we take a minute and just check in with everybody?
Yes.
And see how everyone's doing. Is the PowerPoint presentation working okay tonight?
Yes. Yes.
Shut up.
Yes. Okay. So, would you like me to sum up, or
Do you,
wait?
maybe we'll take time, we'll do the Thai sum up later and ask the
Yeah.
other countries to do sum up afterwards. The PowerPoint is okay, we see it well on the
Okay.
screen.
Are you seeing only the PowerPoint, or are you going back and forth between us and the PowerPoint?
We're switching and leaving the PowerPoint long enough to read it and then coming back to you. Well, you're
Okay.
switching the PowerPoint.
Right.
So we're giving
this
you...
is the first time we're trying it.
It works well. We're giving you full screen when the PowerPoint is up, so it's legible.
Okay, good. All right. So we'll go on with a little bit of work, a little bit of talk about timelines then.
Also, how is the pace? Is everybody able to understand well? Do I need to
Understand.
change volume or
Up or down?
speed?
เข้าใจนะคะ
Or down?
ดัง
Show
ชัด
me.
เจน
This or this? Okay. Yes, thumbs up here.
Thumbs up here too
Thumbs
from
up.
Joaquin.
Okay. All right. Thumbs up is good.
Okay, so a couple of points about managing the time when you do a group activity. One of the most important things is to be sure you let your students know at the beginning of the activity, and actually I think this is true for any part of teaching. Let your students know what you expect of them. So that if you say, we're going to do a group activity, I want you to work with a partner, work with someone to your right. You will have 3 minutes to do this activity, and then I will ask each of you to write down the most important thing you learned. So before you even start the activity, make sure they understand everything that will be required of them. If it's a larger activity, and maybe you want to spend as much as 20 minutes, and maybe the activity has 4 parts, and each part will take 5 minutes, then as the students get involved in what they're doing, they won't be keeping track of the time very well. So a couple of minutes before it's time to move to the next activity, interrupt quickly and just say, you have 2 minutes left. Please finish this piece of the activity, and then we'll need to move on to the next. Sometimes if you have a display surface, the blackboard, or a computer that you might use in the classroom, you can put little notices on the blackboard, and then students can just look up and check from time to time to see if it's time to move to the next part of the activity. This is particularly important because you don't want groups finishing much ahead of other groups, or you will have students who are sitting idle with nothing to do and groups who are taking way too much time. So they learn how to adjust to this, and you learn how to manage it better as you do more group work.
All right, let's talk a little bit about mixed ability classes and groups. I've got 40 students in my class. Some of them are really strong learners, and some of them have a ways to go.
So when you have these mixed abilities, you may want to, as we mentioned before, perhaps put students who are struggling a little bit in a group together and give them a simpler task to do. And then maybe with your students who are more capable, you can give them a slightly more complicated task to do. And all the groups can be working at the same time, but you will need to be designing a task that is suitable for the knowledge and skill level of each of those groups. So this does mean more work for you as a teacher. But I think as teachers we know we're always doing more work. I don't know, in my teaching that's the way it feels all the time. Another way to arrange your groups when you have mixed abilities is to very purposely put a group together where you have a very capable student, some students who are working fairly well with the material but still struggling a bit, and also some students who are very, very limited in their ability to be successful. And what you try to do with a mixed ability group is to help them understand the value of teaching each other. And with teaching each other, it does not mean just handing somebody answers if they're struggling with an answer. It means helping them really learn to understand what the task is on their own. And we'll talk a little bit later about accountability for how groups work together and how you encourage that working together by the way that you ask students to explain what they've learned together. And some teachers decide that it's very important to spend time teaching their students about good group skills, about how to listen, about how to ask good questions, about how to be sure that everyone in the group has had a chance to speak, about how to share the leadership responsibilities, share the task of writing things down, so you don't always have the same student doing those tasks. You let each student try and learn to develop those skills.
All right, so you've been talking about putting groups of students together, and sometimes that involves sort of people sitting where they're already sitting and sort of leaning. I think you've used the word leaning in each other, and sometimes it involves I've heard you use the word reconfiguring the classroom. And so sometimes you reconfigure the classroom, sometimes you leave students in the same groups. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that? How do you put students in groups? How long do you leave them there?
Okay, so I'm seeing you kind of sitting in groups of maybe 5 or 6 at tables where you are.
Yeah.
And because I haven't visited schools in Thailand, I'm not sure what your classrooms look like. I know in many classrooms here in the States, there are long rows of desks or tables, and the students are all sitting and facing the teacher. So when you have that kind of arrangement of long rows, everybody facing front, it's more difficult to be in a group. And that's why sometimes just letting 2 students who are sitting right next to each other go ahead and work together. Or even 3 students. If we had 1 more student here, we can each lean in a little bit and talk to each other fairly easily. The larger your groups are, the more you must deal with this problem of how will they sit together and work together easily without having difficulties hearing each other and seeing each other. So depending on what you want your students to do, what you're trying to accomplish, you then need to think, all right, what size group would be best? I think here at the University of Oregon, we keep our group work, the size of the group fairly small, from 2 students working together to maybe 4 or 5 students working together. But we don't often get the groups much bigger than that. So again, you might want to assign these groups as permanent groups. Maybe there's some value in having the same students work together for the entire term. We have a 10-week term here. Maybe it's going to be helpful for them to learn their group skills together so that they can work more productively as the weeks go by. Sometimes an instructor will decide, well, I want my students to have the experience, and maybe especially in a language class, of hearing the language spoken in a variety of ways. So I want to mix my students up a little bit more. So I think, again, as teachers, that's something you will need to decide. What do I value in the learning, and how can I best accomplish it?
So when you want to put students into groups, you can let them put themselves into groups, but you're talking about sort of managing those groups sometimes too. So if I want to put my students into groups, what are some ways I can do that?
If you have a place to post the groups on a blackboard or on a piece of paper so that when they walk in the room, they can see which group they're supposed to be in for that group activity that day, and they will know automatically where they need to be sitting. If you just want them in pairs, it doesn't matter how they sit in the classroom. You can just tell them to pair up with the person next to them. If you are going to hand back some homework for that class period, sometimes you can put a number on the back of the homework sheet. And when you're ready for that group activity, you say to the group, turn your sheets over. You'll see a number on the back of the page. I want group 1 to be over here in this section of the room. I want group 2 over here. And you mark carefully in the room all the spaces where the group should assemble. Sometimes you can actually tape a piece of paper with the group number in different parts of the room so that the movement going from everybody sitting in their chairs to everybody going into their groups works as smoothly as possible. You don't want a lot of confusion and people spending too much time moving around because that will waste class time. You can also decide, depending on the number, if you want 6 groups in the class, you can just count off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then when you're done, you say all the 1s here, all the 2s over here, and place them that way.
As an emergency, I saw a teacher do something one time. She didn't have time to put the numbers on the homework or put the names up on the board. And so as the students came into the room, she had 4 different colors of cards. She had little blue cards, yellow cards, green cards, and white cards. And as each student came in the door, she gave each of them a different colored card. And so all the whites went to one corner, all the greens went to another corner, and the blues and the reds. And so if you don't have a lot of time to do this kind of setup, something like just colored cards at the doorway can help get people where they need to be too.
Good idea.
Yeah. Now this is where we had planned originally to take a little break and do activity number 1. I think what we're going to do you want to go ahead and do it? Okay. Georgianne said this is a kind of a short one, and so we'll go ahead and do this. This one was on your handout originally. You're going to need a piece of paper. Do you all have a piece of paper?
Yes.
A piece of white paper?
Okay.
You can use the back of another piece of paper maybe.
โอเคนะคะเดี๋ยวจะทำแอคทิวิตี้1นะคะครูทั้งหลายคะไม่ต้องตกใจนะคะเดี๋ยวจะมีการสรุปและการอภิปรายหลังจากคุณเลสลี่และคุณจอร์เจียนจบรายการแล้วนะคะ Don't go away. We're gonna provide some summaries and discussion afterwards in Thai.
Okay, but they've been sitting there for a long time, so we'll let them try something a little active now.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen? There's sort of a blank piece of paper, and we folded the paper in half so the paper has 2 columns. And on the column on the left-hand side, there's a word up at the top. Can you see that word?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. What is the
Activity
word?
1.
Christmas.
What is the word? What do you see at the top of the column there?
Christmas.
Christmas.
Christmas, yes. So do you remember last month when we talked with Sarah Klinghammer? She talked about blending together your language skills and your topics and your themes and your communicative language practices all together. So a really natural kind of topic that you often find in your syllabus or you can easily bring into your classroom is that of holidays. So for today, for our activities, we chose the broader topic, holidays around the world. Well, you're in Thailand or Vietnam or other places, and we're here in the United States, and so it's cold here, and it's raining, and we're getting ready for, lots of different holidays. Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, and maybe some people do Boxing Day, and eventually New Year's, but one that's on a lot of people's minds right now is Christmas. Not everyone celebrates Christmas, but a lot of people do, and I think it's one that students might be familiar with. How many of you have done some reading or seen pictures or you know a little bit about Christmas? Raise your hands. Oh, yeah, all right, okay, so it's a familiar topic, right? Okay, so to illustrate the value of group work, what we're going to do first is ask you not to work in groups, to pretend that you are not sitting next to a friend or a colleague, and look down at your paper all by yourself and do what, Georgianne? What are we going to have them do?
Okay, so this first part you will do completely alone. Try not to look from side to side. And we will give you
1 minute.
1 minute. When I say go, you may begin. And what I want you to write down underneath the word Christmas is all the words you can think of, just single words that have something to do with Christmas.
Okay, but not yet, not yet.
Not yet.
Pencils up. Hold your pencils up. Everybody, hold your pencils up. Let me see those pencils up in the air. Okay. Are you all ready?
Yes.
Nod your heads. Yes. Okay, we say ready, set, go. 1 minute.
As many words that have something to do with Christmas.
All right. Spelling does not count. Pronunciation does not count at this point. Okay, half a minute. Okay, pencils up. Everybody stop. Okay, now just take a minute and count. How many different words do you have on your paper? And put a little number down at the bottom. No cheating. You have to use accurate math, real math. Okay, you got your number? Okay, now what we want you to do is fold the paper in half so you can't see your words anymore. So hide your words. Fold your paper in half and hide your words. All right, did you hide your words? Shake your head yes if you hid your words.
Huahin?
Oh, good. I see lots of heads shaking. Very good, very good. All right, now we're going to do the same thing, only this time what are we going to do differently, Georgianne?
Okay, this time I want you to again think of all the words that you associate with the holiday of Christmas. And at your tables, I think if everybody's at tables and there's about 5 or 6 of you, this time you can work as a group. So you can combine your ideas and try to make a much longer list of words than you were able to make by yourself. Is everybody clear?
Yep.
Do you understand the task?
Yes.
But how many people are writing, Georgianne?
Okay.
So if we're in a group, how many people are writing?
You need one person to be your group leader who is going to do the writing.
Two tables.
Okay, so everybody's in a group. So let's see the group leaders raise your hand. Everybody who's going to do the writing, one person per group. Group leaders raise your hand.
ค่ะอาจารย์คะตอนนี้ก็ทำงานเป็นกลุ่มนะคะแล้วก็ในกลุ่มเนี่ย group leaders เนี่ยขอให้ยกมือขึ้นด้วยค่ะ group leader นะคะตอนนี้วิทยากรเนี่ยบอกให้เราเนี่ยพยายามช่วยกันคิดศัพท์ให้มากที่สุดนะคะมากกว่าเดิม
Okay. All right. So can you guess what we're going to do now? We're going to do the clock again. We'll do 1 minute, but you get to work together this time. Instead of one brain, you get to put all your brains together. Group leaders, are you ready?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Yeah,
All
they're
right.
already.
Ready? All right. Ready, set, go.
Okay.
Should have asked him.
Snow. Cold weather.
Okay. 15 more seconds.
Poor thing.
Okay, everybody stop.
Stop.
Pens up. Okay.
Pens up.
Now. Pens up. Yeah, make them stop, Tushada. Make them stop.
Yes, pens up, everybody.
All
You see
over.
how good work really works.
Yeah, it looks like they're really enthusiastic there. Okay, now we want you to count the number of words in your group column.
Okay นับเลยค่ะ
In
นับ
English. Count in English, please.
Count in English please 16 Oh wow 19
Good. 19.
Who's got more than 19? So 19 maximum? Anybody more than that?
How about in Hua Hin? What's the maximum number in Hua Hin? Oh, they're still counting or negotiating or something.
20.
I wonder how they did in Vietnam and in the other sites that they're watching. I bet we've got some high number there too.
20. The highest number is 20 in Bangkok.
Oh, 20. Oh, very good. They get the golden star.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we have a question for you. Groups, are you listening?
Yes.
All right. How many groups, how many people had fewer words as a group? So everybody worked by themselves. Did anybody have fewer words as a group? And you were able to do it your own.
มีกลุ่มไหนได้น้อยกว่าเดิมไหมคะ
มีคำน้อยกว่า
คำน้อยกว่าเดิมไหมคะ
มีใครมีคำน้อยกว่าเดิมไหมคะ
ไม่มี
Okay.
No.
How about groups? How many people had more words when you worked together as a group? Raise your hands. More words.
All of us.
Oh, I see lots of hands going up.
Right.
Okay, so guess what? The value of this activity or the purpose was to demonstrate the value of group work. So you all accomplished that very nicely. Give yourselves a hand. Good job. Good job. Okay.
Excellent.
Actually, there's one other aspect. When you had to do the task by yourself, and then when you did the same task as a group, which was more fun? To work alone or to work with others?
Work with others.
Who thinks working by yourself is more fun?
Working together.
Who had more fun working with their group?
Hands.
Oh, there go the hands. Okay. So this is another kind of benefit. For many tasks, it just feels more fun, you feel more productive, and you actually accomplish more when you work as a group. This is not to say that everything should be done as a group, but for some tasks, when you work with others, you enjoy it more and you accomplish more. And this brings us very nicely to a point that we discussed last month, which is the idea of motivation. If your students are motivated, if they're engaged, they're spending more time on task, they're going to learn the language and they're going to remember it a lot more as well. Okay, so how do you know if everybody participated or not, Georgianne? Well, to be honest, you don't always know if everybody participated, or even if you know they all participated, you may not know how well they participated. So usually when you design your task, so for example in this task we would ask you to turn in your list. So first you do it by yourself and everybody would turn that list in, and then as your teacher I would be able to see who was able to do what completely on their own. Mm-hmm. Then I would ask you again to write down, have your group leader write down the group work and turn that in, and then I could also see how each group did. So at the end of the task, there's some kind of evidence. Sometimes the evidence, and often the evidence is something which is written. Sometimes the evidence is you ask the groups to speak about what they have accomplished. So if you gave them a problem to solve, then you might say, in your groups, pick a group leader. When I call on your group, I will ask your group leader to give us the answer that your group decided on. So maybe they'll just present it out loud by talking to the rest of the class. But with each activity, you need to decide how will they show some evidence of what they have learned. Most often, they will be producing something in writing. The other thing that's important about group work, and one reason many students don't like to do group work, is they feel that if they're going to get a grade for the group work that they did, and their group doesn't do very well, then they will be punished. So what I recommend to teachers here is most of the work in class will probably be done individually in terms of taking tests, turning in homework,
doing quizzes. But when you do group work, whatever your group is able to accomplish will be added to your individual grade. So for very capable students who are doing grade A work, which is our system of grading, I'm not sure if it's the same. If our best students get an A,
100%.
100%, then it doesn't really matter for those students what the group does because they will already have their 100%. The students who probably benefit the most from group work are students who are struggling a little bit with the material. Then what they learn from other students really helps them understand things a little bit better. And when you add the group grade to their individual score, then their individual score looks a little bit better and helps them some more. Another way you can ask groups to be accountable, if the group task has, let's say, 3 or 4 different parts, you might ask the groups to divide the responsibilities. So if there are 3 parts and you have a group of 3, one student will capture all the nouns that need to be captured. The next student will look for all the verbs. The third student might look for all the descriptive words, the adjectives and adverbs. And they'll all work together for 3 minutes, and they'll all put their lists together, and that will be their group grade.
You know, some students are naturally kind of more shy than others, or they're a little bit quiet. So how do you encourage those people to speak up or talk out or be part of what's happening in class?
Well, I talked earlier about the importance of spending a little bit of time with your class and discussing what good group behavior is. And in one class here at the university, one instructor asked her students to, after they had a group activity, they had to fill out a small card, and on that card they had to write, "This is what I contributed to my group today." So maybe they asked some good questions, maybe they tried to listen well to other people in their group, maybe they tried to help solve a problem. Maybe they did solve the problem for the group. Maybe they tried to teach another person in their group. So by asking students to put down how they contributed, it reminds them that they have a responsibility in their group to do something. Some students are shy and they don't want to do a lot of talking, and so maybe they spend more time listening. Some students like to talk maybe a little bit too much. And sometimes they say more and don't let other people speak. You can also have students, if they work in groups for several activities over many weeks, they can also give each other some feedback about how everyone is participating. So they might say to one student, "We haven't heard you talk hardly at all over the last 4 weeks. We would really like to hear you and hear your ideas." Or maybe the feedback to another student is, "Each time we have a task, you sort of take over the task and it doesn't give the rest of us a chance to contribute. Maybe it would be good for you to sit back and let some of the rest of us do some of the work." So when they can learn to communicate to each other about their group behavior, the group becomes stronger.
So what you're really talking about there, I think, are maybe 2 different kinds of assessment, and assessment without a grade attached to it. So in the one case, the students are really assessing themselves, so sort of reflectively thinking, you know, what did I contribute today? What did I bring to the task? And in the other case, you're saying students can give each other feedback, and that feedback may not go to you, the teacher.
No.
It stays within the group, and so the group is responsible to itself and for achieving some sense of balance as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Well, at this point, we had planned to do a second activity. This is a really easy activity that you can do. It's using an image, so the idea of a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Can we just walk through it?
Yeah, we can walk through it. Georgianne mentioned earlier the idea of sort of giving people different roles in a group. So, one person looks for verbs, one person looks for nouns, one person looks for adjectives. We could do that with the picture here, I think. What do you think? Should we try that?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got a picture. And what's our topic today? Do you remember what our topic is? Holidays of the world. And we chose one holiday. We chose a holiday from the United States. What was the holiday?
Christmas.
Was it Valentine's Day?
No. Christmas.
Well, no. Was it Halloween?
No.
No.
No. Was it Easter?
No.
No. No. What do we see here? This is a
Christmas.
kind of, not a
Christmas.
summer holiday. This is a kind of winter holiday.
Right.
And this isn't Christmas exactly. This is sort of like the time of year that Christmas takes place. But we chose this picture because it's a busy picture. And by the way, these pictures are really easy to find on the internet. This is from one of the free coloring book websites. If you go to Google or you go to Yahoo and you put in free coloring book plus Christmas or plus holidays, you can get lots and lots of these kinds of pictures. You don't have to go buy them or even spend a lot of time looking for them. Okay, so what are we going to have them do? They've got 5 or 6 people in the group. So we could have two people do something?
Yeah, we'll have 3 tasks.
Okay.
And we'll ask you, in your group of 6, work together in 2s. So 2 of you will look at the picture and list as many nouns as you can.
Good.
2 of you will work together and list all the verbs that are reflected in the actions that are happening in this picture. And the last 2 work on descriptive words, adjectives.
Or adverbs. It could
Or
be
adverbs
Yeah. So
that are describing.
Yeah. So adjectives describing nouns, adverbs describing verbs.
นะคะ
Do you have any questions about the task?
นะคะอาจารย์คะ
Okay. Everybody who's going to do verbs, raise your hand if you're doing verbs.
กลุ่ม
Who's
ละห
doing
กนะคะ
verbs?
We're going to
ค่ะค่ะ
form group of 6 quickly.
กลุ่มละ6นะคะ เร็วๆเลยนะคะ กลุ่มละ6ค่ะกลุ่มละ6ลากเก้าอี้มาก็ได้หรือเดินมาก็ได้ค่ะ
Those of you who are watching
Exercise.
in at other sites in Vietnam or in Thailand, put
Okay.
yourselves into groups of 6, please.
นะคะ2 คน
Lao as well.
Decide who's going to do the verbs, who's going to do the nouns.
2 คนหา
Who's gonna
คำ
do
นา
the
มจากรูป
descriptors?
2 คนหา action verb จากรูป อีก 2 คนหา descriptive adjective หรือ adverb จากรูปนะคะ จากรูปอันเนี้ยค่ะ
Okay, so let's do one more check-in with people. Who's doing verbs? Everybody who's doing verbs, raise your hands.
ใครทำ
Verbs?
verb ใครหา verb ยกมือขึ้น ใครหา
2 people
verb
each group.
Okay,
Can I
let's
have
do a
work?
check-in here. We're checking to make sure people know their tasks.
There should
Yeah.
be partners
Okay,
that are doing
good.
verbs.
Okay, I see verbs. Okay, put your hands down, please. All right, now nouns. Let's see who's doing nouns.
ใครหา now
Nouns. Raise your hands.
2 in each group.
yeah
Okay, 2 in each group. Good. All right, good.
ใครหา
All right, thank
adjective
you. Please put your hands down. All right, now let's see who's doing descriptive words, adjectives and adverbs. Raise your hand.
adjective adverb
2 people.
2 people ใครหา adjective adverb คะยกมือเลยค่ะ
Do you have any examples? She'll straighten him
ข
out.
อภาพเต็มจอได้ไหมคะมันจะได้ตะโกน
Okay, so does every group have equal representation? Does everybody have a verb and a noun and an adverb person?
yes
Okay. Does anybody not have a job?
Let's go.
All right. Can you see the picture?
Big screen.
เนี่ยขอ
Can you see
ขอ
this?
รูป
Can you
ภาพ
see
ใหญ่
the
เลยนะ
picture?
คะค่ะขอ
Nina, tell them to put the picture on big screen.
ขอภาพขึ้นจอใหญ่เลยนะคะ
Picture, big
ภาพ
screen.
การ์ตูนนะคะ
Picture.
Yeah.
Oregon big screen. Oregon big screen. Yeah.
All right, there we go.
yes okay
Can you see it now?
yes
Okay, are we ready? Hold your pencils in the air if you're ready. Tell them I'm giving 2 minutes. Hold your pencils in the air if you're ready. Please hold your pencils in the air if you're ready.
Listen, do.
Please hold your pencils in the air if you're ready. I'm ready. All right. I see some pencils in the air. Some pencils. Okay. 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes to write as many words as you can on your paper. Ready? Set. Go. Start writing. 2 minutes. There's confusion about that.
2 นาทีเนี่ยนะคะให้แต่ละคนเขียนคำที่หาได้แต่เมื่อสักครู่นี้นะคะให้มากที่สุด คนไหนหาคำนามได้ก็เขียนคำนาม คนไหนหา verb ได้ก็เขียน verb นะคะ คนไหนหา adjective ก็เขียน adjective ลง
I see some of you writing. Everyone should be writing. Come on, you have lots of ideas in your head, I know. This is not an examination. All the words are okay. Work with your partner. You can talk. Look at the picture and write as many words as you can. Okay, so you have 1 minute more. Please try to write as many words as you can about the picture. Okay, 30 seconds more. All right, 10 seconds. Finish up your last word or two. Okay, and stop writing. Pencils up. Kun Sorada.
up
Kun Sorada, can you hear me?
Yes, Leslie, very well. They seem to have
Oh,
great fun.
good. Oh, good. Listen, I'm hoping you can give us some examples. Can you look around the room? What were some of the nouns that people came up with?
Yeah, I will. Okay, ค่ะ
Okay.
นามแผ่นดินนะคะ
Can you just give us a couple of them?
Get on the microphone, Sarada. Show the people.
How about Bangkok?
right.
Bangkok.
Okay.
Okay,
I
all right.
start.
Hua Hin's
Okay.
ready. Okay.
The first group, snowman. Snow.
Snowman.
Snowman.
Okay.
Snow.
Snowman, all right. Anything else?
Children.
Oh, children. Okay, good. I can see it. Oh,
You can see it
good.
now, right?
Good job.
Ball.
Yeah, yeah.
Girl.
Good.
Boy.
Good.
Houses. Hut.
Good.
Stone. Spade. Doll. Farm.
Oh, yeah.
Shoes. Hat. Scarf. Penguin. Ski.
Wow.
Coat. Sweater.
Oh,
and bird.
penguin. They got penguin, too. All right. Good. Very good. Very good. How about, do we have a group that wants to share some verbs with us? How about from Bangkok? Bangkok, do you have some verbs?
No, not verb.
Verbs: throw, ski, play, dig, decorate, stand, sit, run, fly, fall, make, walk, smile, enjoy.
Great. Wow, you were working so quietly. We weren't sure if you were right or everything, but obviously you were. Nice job. How about adjectives and adverbs?
Okay, I got 25 words in my hand. Start with happy,
All right.
cold, cool, enjoyable, white, black, big, large, small, beautiful, pretty, fat, lovely, high, lively, slow, long, adorable, active, fast, nice, good, many, dry. Got 25 words.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Very nicely done.
Congratulations.
Impressive, most impressive. All right, well, let's finish up here tonight with just a couple of points on assessing, because when it's all said and done, you want to know what you've done and what your students have done. And Georgianne has a couple of ideas about that.
Well, I've already mentioned some of the things. So if this had been the assignment to your students, each pair would put their name on the work that they had done. So the people who had done the noun list, the people who had done the verb list, the people who had done the adjective, adverb list would sign their names at the top. And they would turn that in. And that would be their evidence of the work that they had accomplished. So I think the most important thing about assessing group work is to make sure your instructions are very, very clear, to make sure that as much as possible, everyone in the group has a role to play that they understand clearly and that they're capable of doing, and that you have students sign off on the work that they have done and turn it into you, so they always know that they will need to be accountable for what their group has accomplished. We also talked about having students just maybe stand up at their tables and report, so we had people do that. We didn't get around to every single table, and of course this is difficult in a large class. You usually don't have time for every single table to report what they've done. So if they can just turn it into you in a written form, you might want to hear from one or two groups and then have the rest of them turn their papers in. And each time you do an activity, try to pick a different group and let them be the star of the activity and tell what they were able to do. If a group is struggling when you've asked them to tell you what they accomplished, don't dwell on that too long, but maybe ask the rest of the students, can anyone help? Does anyone have something else to add to the list? Maybe they just had 2 nouns. And then just ask the rest of the class, did someone have some different nouns, and let them add to the list. We talked about students being able to rate each other or give feedback to each other. Sometimes as a final activity, when groups have been working together, let's say for several weeks on different group activities, you can ask them to write up a statement about each member of their group. And this is done individually and in confidence. And they would write down the name of the person and they would say, this
would they say? I think they would give the student feedback on what they wrote or what they did.
To the
Some voice, Leslie, but maybe you're coming back.
Can you hear us now?
Are we connected, Sorada, with Hua Hin?
Yeah, Richard, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
So I think we've lost the connection. They were
With
just
Oregon, right?
they were giving us their summary. Why don't we have our own conclusion? It's time, really. We've gone about quite a bit over time, and I think it's people need to get back to work and back to school. At this point, I'd like to just ask Jan Sushada to maybe make a quick...
Richard, I cannot hear you.
Okay. Manisa in the back, are we broadcasting from here? I think we don't, I think Oregon is finished now. We'll close our... If it goes quickly. You can try, but otherwise I think they need to go home too. If they come in, we'll come in.
Yeah. เพราะฉะนั้นในระหว่างนี้ที่รอว่าเกิด
Just a moment, Sushad. And those of you in Laos, and if you're watching from Vietnam, choose someone to make a Lao or Vietnamese summary along while Sushada is giving the Thai summary. Just turn your sound down for a moment.
นะคะโอเคนะคะก็ขอสรุปอย่างเร็วๆเลยก็แล้วกันว่าวิทยากรเนี่ยก็ได้เริ่มขึ้นต้นโดยพูดว่าข้อดีของข้อดีและข้อเสียข้อด้อยนะคะของการจัดกิจกรรมกลุ่มเนี่ยก็คือข้อดีตอนแรกคือจัดได้ตามวัตถุประสงค์และตรงตามความต้องการแล้วก็ทำให้นักเรียนได้มีส่วนร่วมกับกิจกรรมได้แทบทุกคนวิทยากรก็ได้เปรียบเทียบว่าถ้าเราให้ใครเนี่ยทำงานทีละคนเนี่ยนะคะแต่ละคนเนี่ยครูอาจจะดูไม่ทั่วถึงแล้วเราไม่มีทางรู้ได้เลยว่าแต่ละคนเนี่ยทำงานได้มากขนาดไหนในขณะที่เราจัดเข้ากลุ่มเนี่ยก็นักเรียนก็จะได้ร่วมทำงานด้วยกันทำให้เกิด leadership skill สร้างความเป็นผู้นำและก็ทักษะในการทำงานร่วมกับผู้อื่นซึ่งจะมีประโยชน์มากในการทำงานและวิทยากรก็ได้บอกว่าถ้าทำงานในห้องเรียนแล้วเนี่ยมีเปอร์เซ็นต์ว่านักเรียนจะออกไปทำงานร่วมกันนอกห้องเรียนแล้ว achievement สำเร็จผลในการเรียนก็จะเพิ่มมากขึ้นปัญหาแน่นอนที่สุดคือการควบคุมนักเรียนควบคุมการทำงานของนักเรียนทั้งชั้นเรียนนะคะกับการจัดกิจกรรมให้เหมาะกับระดับของนักเรียนนะคะแล้วก็วิทยากรก็ได้พูดถึงคำว่า timeline นี้ก็คือการจัดลำดับกิจกรรมการวางแผนว่าจะทำอะไรก่อนอะไรหลังนะคะวิทยากรก็ได้บอกว่าให้เราเนี่ยให้ instruction ค่ะ
Thank you very much. We'll talk to you by email then.
Thank you. Goodbye.
See you next month.
You were great students.
See you next time.
Okay.
Okay. Coping with
All
the
right.
change. Thanks so
Goodbye,
much.
Thailand. Thanks very much for connecting with us tonight.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Okay.
to all
ขอบคุณ
you.
ค่ะ
ขอบคุณค่ะ
ขอบคุณค่ะ
And see you next
Bye bye
month,
ค่ะ
Leslie.
Okay. Bye-bye. See you
Bye.
soon.
Bye. นะคะต่อนะคะวิทยากรก็ได้บอกว่าความสำคัญของการจัดลำดับกิจกรรมนะคะหรือ timeline เนี่ยอะไรก่อนอะไรหลังนะคะแล้วก็พูดว่ามีการจัดกิจกรรมได้มี2อย่างแต่จัดกิจกรรมสำหรับนักเรียนที่มีระดับความสามารถหลากหลายนะคะก็แบบแรกก็คือจัดแบบกิจกรรมง่ายให้เด็กกลุ่มอ่อนกิจกรรมยากให้เด็กกลุ่มเก่งอันนี้ก็จะมีข้อเด่นคือเหมาะสมกับตัวนักเรียนข้อด้อยก็คือว่าครูต้องทำงานมากแล้วก็ควบคุมก็ลำบากบางกลุ่มก็เสร็จช้าบางกลุ่มก็เสร็จเร็วนะคะอันที่สองก็คือ จัดกลุ่มเป็น Mixed Ability แล้วก็เทรนนักเรียนทุกคนให้รู้จักหน้าที่ของตัวเองนะคะวิทยากรก็ใช้คำว่า reconfigure นะคะปรับโครงสร้างของกลุ่มเลยแล้วก็ที่วิทยากรเขาเน้นก็คือว่าเวลาการจัดเนี่ยกลุ่มจำนวนที่เหมาะสมคือ 2-5 นะคะและการจัดกลุ่มเนี่ยก็ต้องจัดก่อนเข้าห้องเรียนครูต้องวางแผนล่วงหน้าหมดอาจจะจัดได้โดยการที่เอาแผนผังวางไว้หน้าประตูนะคะแบบแรกวางแผนผังไว้หน้าประตูแบบที่2ก็คือว่าครูคืนการบ้านนักเรียนแล้วเขียนชื่อกลุ่มไว้1 2 3 4 5ไว้ที่หลังงานบ้านแล้วก็พอนักเรียนนั่งประจำที่ปั๊บก็บอกว่าพลิกขึ้นมานะคะนักเรียนแล้วก็เข้าตามกลุ่มที่หมายเลขอยู่บนการบ้านของนักเรียนนะคะแบบที่3คือทำแผนผังห้องที่นั่งแบบที่4คือวางนัมเบอร์ไว้บนโต๊ะคือประเด็นก็คือว่าครูจะพร้อมเสียเวลาน้อยที่สุดในการจัดกลุ่มนะคะอันนี้ก็เป็นสิ่งที่น่าสนใจดีนะคะแล้วก็ประเด็นอีกอันหนึ่งที่ครูพูดก็คือการตรวจสอบคือหลังจากการจัดกลุ่มแล้วนะคะให้ instruction ให้ครอบคลุมมากที่สุดชัดเจนมากที่สุดนะคะจากที่พวกเราเห็นเนี่ยนะที่ครูที่วิทยากร2 ท่านทำให้เราดูเป็นตัวอย่างก็คือให้คำสั่งที่ครอบคลุมทุกคนจะต้องรู้ว่าจะต้องทำอะไรนะคะแต่ละคนมีบทบาทนะคะแล้วก็รู้ว่าจะต้องทำอะไรและรู้ว่ากิจการนั้นสำเร็จเมื่อไหร่นะคะและก็มีหลักฐานประจักษ์พยานนะคะแล้วก็สิ่งที่วิทยากรให้ทุกคนทำนะคะก็คือตัวอย่างนะตอนแรกก็คือให้ดูให้นึกศัพท์เกี่ยวกับคริสต์มาสใช่ไหมคะแล้วให้เราทำเดี่ยวแล้วก็ให้เราทำเป็นกลุ่มผลประโยชน์ของการทำเป็นกลุ่มก็คือเราได้คำมากขึ้นตั้งเยอะแล้วก็มี motivation แล้วรู้สึกว่าไม่ต้องแข่งขันเดี่ยวๆแต่ละบุคคลนะคะเราทำงานร่วมเป็นกลุ่มผลงานก็ได้มากขึ้นนั่นเป็นกิจกรรมแรกกิจกรรมที่2คือรูปคริสต์มาสแล้วก็ทุกคน2 คนมีหน้าที่เอา verb อีก2 คนเอานามหาคำนามอีก2 คนเอา adjective ทุกคนมีบทบาทที่จะต้องทำอยู่ตลอดเวลาแล้วหลังจากนั้นก็มีหลักฐานส่งนะคะมีคำหนึ่งที่วิทยากรพูดคือstudent accountability ให้หน้าที่รับผิดชอบและตรวจสอบการทำงานของนักเรียนได้นะคะแล้วก็ประเด็นสุดท้ายที่วิทยากรพูดก็คือการประเมิน assessment นะคะการประเมินการทำงานของนักเรียนว่านักเรียนเนี่ยทำงานได้สำเร็จมากขนาดไหนการประเมินเนี่ยไม่ใช่ประเมินแบบที่ครูประเมินอย่างเดียวที่คุณเลสลี่กับคุณจอร์จานพูดเนี่ยก็คือว่าให้นักเรียนเนี่ยประเมินทั้งตัวเราเองด้วยนะคะเราให้นักเรียนเนี่ยส่งชิ้นกระดาษไปให้ครูเลยแล้วก็บอกว่าเรามีบทบาทอะไรในการที่ร่วมกิจกรรมกลุ่มอันนี้นะคะเราเป็นผู้ฟังเราเป็นผู้พูดเราเป็นผู้สรุปหรือผู้ช่วย facilitate ช่วยนักเรียนคนอื่นให้participate ในกลุ่มได้ดีขึ้นอย่างที่2ที่คุณจอร์จานพูดก็คือว่าให้นักเรียนเนี่ยเขียนเป็นลับบันทึกลับถึงครูเลยนะคะสรุปอาจจะอาทิตย์หนึ่งหรือเดือนหนึ่งให้นักเรียนเขียนว่าเพื่อนร่วมงานในกลุ่มนั้นมีพฤติกรรมยังไงเพื่อครูจะได้ช่วย evaluate เพราะว่าครูเนี่ยไปอยู่ทุกแห่งไม่ได้เพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยถ้าเพื่อนนักเรียนมี6 กลุ่มแล้วเขียนเหมือนกันสัก4 คนครูก็พยายามอาจจะประเมินได้ว่านี่คือสิ่งที่นักเรียนเห็นนะคะแล้วการประเมินผลอันสุดท้ายคือประเมินจากงานที่ส่งนะคะคนที่หาคำนามก็ต้องส่งชื่อลงมาคนที่หาคำ verb ก็ต้องส่งชื่อกำกับลงมาเพราะฉะนั้นครูก็ทราบว่าคนไหนเนี่ยประสบความสำเร็จทำงานได้มากน้อยแค่ไหนนะคะวิทยากรก็พูดถึงการตรวจจากงานเขียนและการให้นักเรียนเนี่ยรายงาน ปากเปล่านะคะโดยให้นักเรียนมาสรุปหน้าชั้นอย่างที่มีสรุปจากหัวหินคนหนึ่งจากสรุปจากกรุงเทพคนหนึ่งอย่างนี้ก็ให้เป็นไอเดียที่ครูเนี่ยจะตรวจสอบความเข้าใจแล้วทุกคนในชั้นก็จะได้เป็น stars of the day แล้วก็วิทยากรก็ได้บอกด้วยว่าเราไม่สามารถที่จะเรียกทุกกลุ่มได้ทุกวันเราก็ครูก็ควรจะมีโน้ตเรคคอร์ดว่าวันนี้เลือกกลุ่มไหนอีกวันหนึ่งจะเลือกกลุ่มไหนนะคะเพื่อให้มีทุกคนในมีบทบาทและฝึกการเป็นผู้นำนะคะนี่คือที่วิทยากรเนี่ยได้พูดให้เราฟังในวันนี้อาจารย์ท่านใดอยากจะเพิ่มเติมตรงไหนอีกไหมคะอย่างรวดเร็วเลยนะคะโอเคค่ะ